Don't not be Thibodeau. And here it comes. It's about to come in. Oh my God. They didn't. They took Sauce Gardner. Oh my God, they don't want an edge. Maybe he likes Jermaine Johnson at 10. Then we're not going to get a wide receiver?
Garrett Wilson, wide receiver. Oh my God, no edge.
Was sitting there
The Jets traded up. The Jets traded up. Are we taking JJ? Are we taking JJ? Because I know Braden is in New Zealand saying, we should get Lily, Mike. He's definitely saying that. JJ! We got Johnson! We got Johnson at 26! We got Johnson at 26! This is great! Yes! They took Roger McCreary, they didn't take Dean, and we traded up. We can get to Kobe Dean. We can get to Kobe Dean. It really is. They took Breece Hall. They took Breece Hall. Wow. I mean, look, I love Breece Hall. But there's also Jeremy Ruckert, who I think is the best tight end in the class personally. They took Jeremy Ruckert. He took Jeremy Ruckert. Yes! We got a Jeremy. We got a Jeremy. Oh, and the Jets pick, and it's Max Mitchell, offensive tackle. We needed that. That's wow. We took Michael Clemens. I never heard of him. A defensive edge.
What's up, everybody? This is Jets Chaos in the Jets Lounge, and I need to let off some steam. Right away, I see in the comments, Pale Time, my friend, saying, who's bashing the Jets? You know who's bashing the Jets? Jet fans. And I'll tell you why it bothers me, because normally it wouldn't. They said, what do you care? Everybody has different opinions. Why do you care? And it's because I care for other people. And really, this should be a time where Jet fans are enjoying themselves and enjoying what's happening to the organization. And they're not. And they're saying things that are just plain wrong. It's coming from they develop a bias. They see things differently. I mean, it's incredible. If they like one player, they'll forgive anything that player does. But if they don't like a player, then everything they do is under a microscope. One thing goes wrong, we should trade them. They're no good. They're a bust. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's just, I just have to rant. You know me, I have to rant. I mean, where should we even start? I guess we should start by saying hello to some people. Jets mess. That's right. Snacks. I don't know if you call it snacks because I just ate 5 slices of a large pie pizza. So, but I don't like that they call 16-inch large. I grew up in a place in Brooklyn where the good places made 18-inch pies, and to me, that's a large pie. But they're 16 inches, so 5 slices on an 18-inch pie is probably the equivalent of eating 4. Payo time. I'm going to tell you who's bashing. I told you it's the Jets. What do I think of Hard Knocks so far? It's only 1 episode. I think it's all right. I'm waiting for them to get more into the stories. They played a lot of repetitive things that if you're an obsessive Jet fan, you already seen. There's a lot of overlap with One Jets Drive. There's a lot of overlap with the press conferences that we already watched. We haven't seen a ton of behind-the-scenes type things yet. But, it was fun, like the thing with the pylon when they were throwing the ball to the pylon, and there was some cute things. A lot of repetitive things. It's not that I didn't like it. I know if just 5 years ago, I didn't follow all this stuff on YouTube, so I would have loved that episode. But for me, it's just very repetitive. I'm looking forward to like the position battles. I know the format of the show, and the first is always formatted like this is what happened this offseason, right? And they pump you up for the team, and these are the things, major stories. We all know those stories. I think the exciting part comes when they start getting into the position battles. You start to get to know some of these guys at a different level. I'm excited about that. And getting to know those players fighting for the WR6 spot and the tight end 3 or 4 spots, or really 4 on this team. Will they make the roster? Will the fullback Tom Borden make the roster? Those are the kind of things that I'm interested in. The linebacker room, there's going to be a fight to make the roster. Is Ashton Davis going to still make the team? Is his special teams enough? So there's a bunch of things that I'm looking forward to, but we haven't gotten into yet. But so far, I think Hard Knocks did a fine job. I mean, I had no issue with the show whatsoever. Hank G's in the house. What's going on? Cy Thompson, what's going on, brother? How you doing? K Yeti is in the house. What's going on? So here's the kind of thing that bothers me. We go out yesterday and we win a game 27-0, and there were fans that are on Twitter being negative, just angry and being negative. First, and I put, I got to start with it, Becton. I mean, it's like we have 10-year-old football fans. You have a guy who hasn't played in 2 years. He took 7 snaps last week and was great in all 7. I mean, no mistakes, flawless. But it was only 7 snaps, so he's a quitter. We can't rely on him. Negative. Then I literally heard Jeff fans say, I don't care how good he is. I just want to see him play more. That's all we care about, right? And then coach says we're going to give him a green light, see how far he wants to go, blah, 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 blah. Becton comes out and meets his milestone. He's willing to stay out and play more reps, and they had to pull him out and say, no, you're done. Right? Does he get any credit from that? No. Right? Because you hate Becton so much, you can't even acknowledge that he did that. Right? All you acknowledge is because one idiot takes the one bad play, and it was a bad play, but it was totally mispresented because it was presented as, look how bad Becton is, and it shows the sack where a guy runs right, not by him, it runs through him and the guard. And let me tell you something, there's a lot of debate going on. I think we can agree, unless you know nothing about football, at the very least, because we're not the coaches and we don't know exactly, but we can all agree, and everybody I respect that has knowledge of football agrees that is at the worst 50% Becton's fault, 50% Colin's fault. Because Becton's responsible for the edge. He doesn't know that the defender that can come around the edge is going to stunt across to the other side. So his first thing when he pulls back is he's got to pay attention to the edge. Right? Nothing's there. He needs to read that faster. Right? Nothing's there. He pulls back, and you see the delay because he's late to cut right because he's responsible for the edge. Guy cuts left. No one's coming. He comes in, and he makes contact, but it's not Becton contact. He's obviously off balance. He doesn't have leverage. He's late. And he doesn't get there in time to get position and really block the guy. Now, Colin had nobody else to block. There was nothing on him. The guy was literally, I mean, he should have been lined up and positioning against that guy. Doesn't excuse Becton. Becton didn't have anyone to block. I'm sure part of his zone is to do your job. If you don't have anyone to block, you're supposed to be there. So it's not an excuse of, it's not his. No, it's his responsibility too, which is why I'm saying 50%. He should have been there. But what are we talking about now? We're talking about one rep. He messed up, and he did not execute on a rep, and it led to a sack, and that's a bad thing. I could show you Pro Bowl offensive tackles. If you go through all of their film, do you think there are going to be reps? You don't think there's ever going to be a rep where they gave up a sack? Has there ever been a tackle who's never given up a sack in his career? Like, really? We're talking about a guy at that point who had played 14 snaps of football, because maybe it was 5-6 plays in, so plus the 7, 13, 14 snaps of football in real game situation against another team. 14 snaps in the past 2 years. And he had whether it was a miscommunication or he's still not he's not completely as quick as far as the mental part to get over there and help because he was late or he was off balance, whatever it is. It was his 14th play in 2 years. We're in the beginning of August in the second preseason game. They still got a month that they're going to be training and practicing every day. A month. But he's a bust, right? Because of the one play. Then there's another play. Oh, he fell down. Okay? Completely irrelevant to the play. If we're talking about the same play. Because I saw him fall down or get pushed over. And it was literally on the other side of the... I mean, it was nowhere near the play. So, I mean, if the play is away from you and you turn around and somebody still pushes you and you fall over, that makes you a bad tackle? But no one mentioned the running play, a good running play, I think it was for like 8 yards, where Becton literally ends up in the middle of the field, upfield, not like offsides or like, illegal offensive lineman downfield, but he's like in the middle where the center originally lined up, but a few yards up, because he literally moved his guy 5 yards. 5 yards. Because we all know he's an excellent run blocking offensive tackle. We all know that. If you watch, I watched back that game, aside from that play, in about 25 to 27 reps, he literally had one bad rep and an embarrassing thing where he fell over that had no impact on that play. That's what I saw. Now, maybe Dom C, who's going to look at it more carefully than me. I'm ADHD. I'm looking at everything. I'm trying to do a million things at once. I can never focus completely. Maybe he's going to come and tell me there were 3 bad plays. I don't know. I saw 2. And it wasn't really a bad play. He didn't do anything wrong. He just fell down. But, of course, for the Becton haters, oh, how could you get pushed down or knocked over away from the play when you're not paying attention? Ridiculous. We should be celebrating. The guy had to be pulled off the field. When is that not good news? The whole thing was, the knee hurts. Is the knee going to go bad again? The guy makes it through, and knock on wood. Because believe me, I hold my breath every play with this guy. I'm not ignoring the fact that it terrifies me. I'm not denying that we have to have a plan B at all times, and everything we get out of Becton we need to be grateful for or relieved about, and that's what we're stuck with, and that's the reality. I'm not denying that, because whether it's his fault or not, and I'm not blaming him, but whether you want to blame him or not, the reality is when he's playing, he's part of our best 5. And when he's playing, we are a better team. That is reality. You cannot name any other tackles on our team, other than maybe Brown at left tackle, that's better than Becton to be on that field, or you could sit there and you could pull a side shot at me and say AVT. The point is, when we talk about our best 5, a healthy Becton is part of our best 5. Unless the coach has it in for this guy. Unless they really don't like him. But you can't tell me I'm watching on that field. I've watched Mitchell play. I've watched Turner play. You cannot tell me they're at the level of Becton. They are not. They are not. Even with the mistake he made today, he right now is the best tackle on the field because Dwayne Brown's not playing. He's the best tackle we have right now, and it's not even close. He's the only one that moves defenders in the running game. Moves defenders. So I'm tired of hearing the anti-Becton. I know. If he was more fit maybe and lighter, he would have came back from the injury the first year after 6 games. If he was more fit and lighter, maybe the injury last year never happens. Maybe. And don't say it's definite because you're not a doctor. And even if you are, a real doctor would never say it was definite because doctors never speak in absolutism. They never do. When does the doctor say, oh, definitely? Everything they tell you is protecting themselves. Most likely, in most cases, I'm not going to say you can have a heart attack tomorrow, but your physical and your blood work looks good. Right? If you said, you mean I can't have a heart attack tomorrow? I'm safe. I'm deaf. Nothing bad is going to happen to me. They're never going to say, oh, you're safe. They're going to tell you it appears to be good. So don't tell me anybody knows for a fact that his weight had anything to do with last year. It could have been bad luck. And we know unless you're like living on Pluto, that the first injury 2 years ago was not his fault. It's not his fault that a player rolls on his knee. It doesn't matter if you're skinny, if you're fat, if you have muscle, you don't. If I roll on your knee, a 300-pound something man gets thrown on that angle on the side coming into your knee, you are injured. That's not his fault. He didn't do anything wrong. So we got to get off this ridiculous and obnoxious anti-Becton thing. And then people deny it. I'm not anti-Becton, but I'm the first one to post and comment when I see one bad rep. Like, just freaking be honest. Because if it was a player you like, you'd never do that. You'd never do that if it was a player you didn't like. I mean, think of any player you like. They never had a bad rep. I could show you a rep where Will McDonald did nothing. I'm not mad at him for it. You don't win every rep. The guy got underneath him. The guy got the leverage. The guy had the better play. Didn't seem to happen yesterday, but the week before that it did. I was all worried. I was like, "Ooh, look at that guy blocking McDonald like he's nothing." I get nervous. I don't get mad or upset. I get nervous. And then like 3 plays later, McDonald got a sack or a hit, and I said, "Okay, shut up, Germany." Because if your defensive edge was expected to win every rep, why would the record for sacks be like 22, 20, whatever it is? Think about it. If you get 1 sack a game, 1 sack in an entire football game, every game, that's 17 sacks a year. You're one of the elite defensive edges in football. So you can't sit there and tell me that a guy's not good because he loses a rep. Unfortunately, when you're an offensive lineman and you lose a rep, especially when it's 50-50, when 2 guys lose a rep, so the guy was able to get through you and neither guy was able to close the gap, it looks uglier. Because that kind of, when McDonald loses a rep, he just doesn't get a sack that play. Right? Maybe it's a pass, and then you're yelling at the cornerback who gave up the pass, or you're yelling at the linebacker who was supposed to be on coverage, and you forget all about the fact. You don't individually go through the defensive line and say, "I'm mad at you, I'm mad at you, I'm mad at you," because you didn't get a pressure. But when you're an offensive lineman and you lose a rep, oh my God, if a sack comes out of it, all of a sudden we hate them and they're the worst player in the world. Jerry Rice was the greatest wide receiver to ever play in the NFL. And I watched Jerry Rice in an NFC championship game for no reason drop a ball that he caught. He caught the ball, and at the 5-yard line, instead of scoring a touchdown, he dropped the ball. I believe the score was 0-0 at that time. Could have been Giants 7-0 or 3-0. I believe it was 0-0. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But it was still a tight game. It was in the beginning of the game. Jerry Rice catches a bomb pass. He's in front of everyone, 5-yard line, and the ball just came out. I guess that means Jerry Rice is the most overrated player. They should remove him from the Hall of Fame because it was an atrocity of a play. It was an atrocity. It was. And they lost the game 49-3. And if you don't think that was a momentum changer, how can it not be? The Giants were dominant that year. You get a bomb touchdown against them, maybe you change their psyche. Best wide receiver to ever live without arguments. Nobody's close. Don't say Calvin Johnson. Don't even try it. Nobody impacted a game like Jerry Rice. Yet, he made a play that was absolutely atrocious. My point is, you don't go through an NFL career and not make mistakes. Aaron Rodgers has thrown interceptions. Joe Namath has thrown interceptions. Who's your favorite? Mahomes throws interceptions. You're allowed to lose. You're allowed to have bad reps. But for some reason, when it's a player we don't like, that has the bad rep, suddenly that player is the worst player in the world and needs to be cut. And so Corey Davis drops passes, too many. So does Lazard. So does Lazard. Now, when I say he drops too many, he drops more than average. I don't know that he always did. And he only played one real year for us, and then it was, combined in the 2 years because of injuries. Again, not his fault. Injury. It's football. None of them want to be injured. But we forget about his good plays. We forget about the fact that there are moments where he looks like a number one receiver, where he goes up and makes great plays. He's not perfect, but it doesn't make him a bum. It doesn't mean we should trash him and get rid of him. It just means, it's frustrating. He's not great. He's not Garrett Wilson, right? He's not. And he would be much better if he didn't drop more passes. But that's why there's a range. That's why not every wide receiver is great. That's why a few of them stand out. That's why there are some players we love or players we think are great. And there are players that are good and players that are below average and players that stink. Now, if Corey Davis never made plays, never got open, misread routes, and dropped passes, he stinks. But that's not what Corey Davis does. Corey Davis simply drops passes and also does a lot of good things and has scored touchdowns for us and made good plays. He's a decent number 2 receiver. He's not really a number 1 receiver. And he's not the best. He's not an elite number 2 receiver. Okay, that's fine. He doesn't get paid like one. He gets paid like $12 million. To me, that means middle of the road number 2 receiver. Even if you were like one of the best number 3 receivers in the league and you got paid around $12 million, okay. It's nothing crazy. So then we got everybody wanting to trade him. But Lazard is fine, even though he drops passes too. Now, if you ask me, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, and Andy Lazard are a really good three, and then when you add Hardman, and what makes Hardman good is that he's just different. He gives the room some other flavors that work as really good weapons. His speed and his ability to run sweeps. So the wide receiver room is fine. There's nothing wrong with our wide receiver room. It doesn't have to be you have 2 elite wide receivers. You know what happens when you have 2 elite wide receivers? One of them gets hurt, and then you're weak on one side because you have nobody else, because every team only has a certain amount of resources. And as a lot of smart people have said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. You could have 2 elite receivers and put tons into that and hurt in other places, or you could have a really great true number 1 receiver and a really good balanced wide receiver room. And that's what we have. And with Aaron Rodgers, it's going to look better than it ever did. And guess what? Nowadays, tight ends are one of your receivers. Running backs, and it's another guy I want to talk about, Michael Carter, are receivers. So your quarterback has other weapons. And I want to talk about Michael Carter because Michael Carter, it's the most nonsensical thing I think I've heard all offseason. Michael Carter had a really good rookie year. So much to the fact that people did not think we should draft Breece Hall. There were plenty of fans that had I didn't think they would. I wasn't against it not because I thought we needed a running back, but Breece Hall. I love Breece Hall. But I was yelling Modine. Modine? No, I wasn't. I'm the Kobe Dean. I was yelling, Modine, get out of my chat because you're too negative. I was going, we could get Nakobe Dean. We could get Nakobe Dean. Remember that? I was all excited about getting Nakobe Dean. Why was I excited about that? Because he's a super jet fast linebacker. He covered people, take tackles everywhere. I love the kid. They picked Breece Hall. My first reaction was, oh my God, really? Wow. Well, and I said, I love Breece Hall though. But Michael Carter was good enough that none of us thought that we had to take Breece Hall. Well, not none of us, but 75, 80% of us weren't screaming at the TV, grab Breece Hall. And a lot of people mocked us, and a lot of you were very negative when we did it. There was tons of Twitter. Oh, what a stupid thing we did. Drafting Breece Hall a running back. We didn't need a running back until you saw him play. Right? But going back to Michael Carter, let's look at Michael Carter's year. He has a great first year. Yards after contact as good as anybody in the league. Really good out of the backfield, catching the ball, making plays. Then he comes in the next year, and he's still good. For the first half of the season, he's fine. He's fine. And as a matter of fact, look at the first down we got against Buffalo. One of the big plays was a great, 15-yard run by him. We were rolling. Nobody was complaining about Michael Carter. And then what happened? The New England game happened. What happened was Belichick showed the NFL how to beat the New York Jets. Belichick came out and he said, we're not going to respect Zach Wilson at all. We're going to play this team like Zach Wilson is a bad, immobile version of Kyle Murray. You know what I mean? We're going to treat him like he's just a third-string quarterback. We're basically going to put 8-9 guys in the box, and we're not going to let this team run. And we're going to dare Zach Wilson to beat us. And what happened? Well, AVT was hurt by that time. And we'd already lost almost everybody else on the offensive line. We had a guy playing with a shoulder so bad he couldn't lift his arm above his head. I have trouble doing it because I'm actually having an issue with my shoulder. So I can tell you, it would be really hard to play football, the offensive line, in the condition I'm in right now. I mean, aside from the fact I stink already, this would make it even worse. Even if I was playing against fifth graders, it would be hard right now. Because anything, if I lift my arm or my elbow any higher, ow, it hurts. That was Dwayne Brown's situation. Probably much worse than my situation because I don't need surgery. I just need a physical therapist and to lose some weight. So you got a guy like that. You got backups who got hurt to backups, guys we had to pick off of practice squads. And you have defenses that now Belichick showed the NFL, you can put 9 guys in the box, 8 guys in the box if they have 3 wide receivers. And dare Zach Wilson to beat you. Just run blitz, play the run, key on the run. And guess what? By the way, their entire offensive line is decimated. Now, you might argue an elite running back, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, would still be okay. Fine. Did anybody say that Michael Carter were those guys? Did anybody claim that Michael Carter or Bam Knight were Hall of Fame running backs? There's a difference between good and elite. They're good running backs. Sometimes good running backs are enough to be a Super Bowl team. You don't need an elite running back because your offensive line is really good. And whoever you put there is going to get 100 yards a game if you run 20 times, 25 times. Sometimes that's enough. Because you have such a good offensive line and a good passing game, and it's not that hard to get 4 or 5 yards a carry. That's the situation. But in this situation, if you watch the games, they were running into a freaking wall. Yeah, it's true. Michael Carter dropped a pass, and everybody lost their minds. You know what happened? He was trying to do too much. He was already thinking about trying to put on a move because they could not score a touchdown. And he was overthinking because he wanted to help the team. The evidence that I'm right is that Bam Knight, who was also doing really well, remember? Oh, this is like the mini Breece Hall. 1 cut and run. 100-yard game in one of his first starts. Oh my God, Bam Knight's great. He went to crap too. Why? Because 98% of the running backs in the NFL history would have played as poorly as they did because they were running into a wall. They had no blocking. The entire defense was coming in on them because they did not believe that Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, or a crippled Mike White can do anything to them. And they were right. our quarterbacks couldn't do anything to them, which is why we were the 32nd ranked team in quarterback play. So Belichick showed the blueprint to everyone. That's how football is. You hold a team to 0 points, 3 points. Every team in the league is going to see that plays you and says, what did they do? Let's look at the film. Oh, look at that. They're stacking the box and playing them. They're playing them like they're playing a college football team that, like Oklahoma, that does the wishbone or whatever and never runs the ball and never passes the ball. And we're going to sit there and blame Michael Carter and say, oh, he's a bust. Like his rookie year didn't happen. Can we be better? Can we just be better? I'm not saying he's a superstar. He's good. Because when he had an average offensive line, and we've never been better than average in the last 2 years, even healthy. In the past 2 years, past 10 years, when's the last time we had a better than average offensive line? None in my memory in a long time. But even with an average offensive line, these guys were solid running backs. They were capable of 100-yard games. They were capable of being enough. And that was with not a great passing game, not good quarterbacks, an average offensive line, 32nd best quarterback play in the league. And these guys were good. Can you imagine if they had, I don't know, a Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame quarterback? Who was, even if he's number 10 in the NFL instead of number 32? And can you imagine if the offensive line wasn't decimated and they were just average or even slightly below average, but not guys that came off of other people's practice squad 1 week, 2 weeks before? Even if they were 18th in the league, but at least a real NFL line. And now a defense that has to play against us and say, we can't disrespect Aaron Rodgers. We can't put 8, 9 guys in the box every play because he'll tear us a new one. Because he'll drop back and hit slants to Garrett Wilson, or he'll throw deep to Hardman one-on-one and we'll burn them and get touchdowns. Can you think that way for a second? And then when you have to do that, you have to cover those receivers and your safeties have to come back. Now you have a running game. It's not Michael Carter only. It's not only on him. The only thing we learned about Michael Carter and Bam Knight is they're not Tony Dorsett, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, Eric Dickerson, or Breece Hall. That's what we learned about them. They're not elites, but guess what? We never expected them to be elite. We just want them to be good running backs. One was an undrafted free agent. The other was a 4th-round pick. If they're good NFL running backs that add good depth to this team, that are capable of coming in an emergency and having a 100-yard game if we block well for them, isn't that good enough? Breece Hall might miss a game or two, or Breece Hall might get off to a slow start. We might need more people to take carries. We have those guys. The combination of Bam Knight and Michael Carter itself is enough. And then on top of that, we have this new guy. Abawakanda. I think I can't. If I'm not reading, if his name's not written in front of me, I can't say it. Somebody type it in the chat so I can read it. Abawakanda. I'll call him Izzy. Izzy. All right. Now, he's a rookie. I wouldn't want him starting. I don't trust him yet. We can't trust him to be a starter. But he sure as hell looks like he might be. We might have something there. He looked pretty impressive yesterday. Against backups. But would you? But I love that. Oh, but it was against backups. So would you rather have him do nothing against backups? If he does nothing against backups, then we know he's nothing. But if he does great against backups, at least we have the hope. Oh, let's see him against the ones. If he does that against the ones, we got ourselves a special player. But you can't expect him to. I mean, the guy can't change the reality of who he's playing against. All he could do is play really well, and that gives us hope. And that gives us something to be excited about. I'm not naming the kid a Hall of Famer. I'm just excited. I'm excited that out of those guys that were on the field at that time, he stood out as a great player on that field. And that's a good thing. Because maybe he'll stand out when it's the ones. I don't know. I mean, look, he duped the guy that I wanted to draft. Jamie Robinson, man. People liked him. He was drafted in all the mock drafts. People liked him. He's good, good safety. And he didn't break his ankle because he didn't even react to that move. He didn't even react to the move. He didn't know what happened. The kid was just gone. He was going in for a tackle, and the kid disappeared. He did this crazy spin thing, was gone. So we're fine at running back. Am I against getting Cook? No, I'm not against it. But if they don't get Cook, I'm not going to run and cry. JT stinks. Why didn't we get Dalvin Cook? Oh, my God. The world's coming to an end. A guy who averages 4.5 yards a carry didn't come to our team. How are we ever going to survive? You really think Dalvin Cook moves the needle? Give me a break. Not to mention the fact that all we keep hearing is good news with Breece Hall. So by the time the season gets going, by the time we're in the middle of the season, he's there. He's playing. And we have good running backs behind him. And if we sign Dalvin Cook, I'm not complaining. I'm not against it. If we get him at a value that JD thinks is right, I'm not against it. Because it's never a bad thing to have a 4.5 yard per carry running back who's capable of big plays. It's never a bad thing. Got to be nuts to complain about that. Of course I wouldn't complain about that. But I'm not going to run and cry if we don't get him. There's 32 teams in the league. We're not going to get every single free agent that comes available. Now, if Michael Carter got hurt in camp and he was out and it was down to Bam Knight and the rookie, and we knew Breece Hall wasn't going to be 100% for the first 8 games or so, then hell yeah, I'm screaming. Just pay him the money and get the kid in camp. But that's not the situation. The situation is we have a good running back room. It might not be the best in the NFL, but I think it might be when Breece Hall's healthy and back. If he's back the way he was last year, he was on his way, in my opinion, to being an elite running back. He was going to be our new Curtis Martin. He's going to be our new guy that for years people talk about. He's going to be one of those big names. And people were saying, you're saying it too soon, because I was saying it before he took an NFL snap. But now you're going to say I'm saying it too soon after watching him against Green Bay, watching him against Denver. He is an elite running back. I promise you. As long as he comes back healthy, man, that's the worst thing about injuries. You never know. We'll never know if we got the Breece Hall that we were going to have without the injury. But it sure looks good. It sure looks good when 7-8 months later he's running 23 or whatever that means on the tread. So, I mean, that's my take on Michael Carter. People need to just chill out. And Bam Knight, defending them both. They need to chill out. I'm not saying they're all pro running backs, but people got to start acting like they're trash because they're not trash. And they proved they weren't trash. When they had any kind of team around them, any kind of support, they were not trash. Now let's flip over. I want to talk a little bit talked about Becton. We talked about Corey Davis. We talked about Michael Carter. Okay. Another guy I want to talk about is our coach, Robert Saleh. I keep hearing people say, and this drives me crazy, he better win this year. He's on the hot seat. He has no excuses now. You know what? Robert Saleh took over a team that was literally stripped down to nothing. Adam Gase left, and Joe Douglas stripped the team down to nothing. Do you know who our best players were? I remember seeing videos. Oh, the top 10 Jet hopefuls. This included guys like Bryce Hall. I swear to God. Guidry, Javelin Guidry. These were the guys people were talking about that were our hopefuls. Here were the main guys we had on that roster that was stripped down. We had Quinnen Williams, who was a developing defensive tackle that people were already freaking out wasn't going to live up to his number 3 pick. Okay? We had Denzel Mims, who had a decent rookie year and looked really good at times, but was injured and banged up. So, he was inconsistent and didn't play many games, but he looked really good in some games that he was in. We had Becton, who looked like a monster. probably my number one guy I would have kept on the team at that time because he looked like our best player. And we had Marcus May. Okay? Which at first it started with Marcus May. Oh, wow. Why aren't we paying him $12 million a year for 4 years and guaranteeing him $36 million? And I don't blame people. We hadn't had a good player in 8 years. We were trash for so long that a player like Marcus May to us was a star. Joe Douglas already had a plan. And he wasn't going to pay $10, $12 million for a good safety. He also knew something we didn't know, that he was arrested for drunk driving or whatever. That was known. It wasn't known to any of us, but it came out later. We also had him under team control with no guarantees for 3 years for less money than he was asking for. So that's like the dumbest thing in the world. Well, you got to show you're loyal to players. Loyal to players? We won 1 game the year before. What kind of loyalty? You mean we have to be stupid? If you run a business, you would do that? Well, you've been here a long time, so let me overpay you. And you know what? Let me guarantee it. So even if you sprain your ankle and you can't come in for 3 weeks, I still have to pay you. Even though I could go year by year. And you guys want to fire JD, or people complain about JD. Why? For being smart? Signing Marcus May would have been the stupidest thing in the world. Because then when he ripped his Achilles, you would have said, how dumb, now we have to pay him for 3 years. And everybody that knew and understood football would have told you, yeah, you see, we could have just cut him at the end of the year. And we don't have to pay him that money because we had control of his contract anyway. You see how it works? So going back to it, Marcus May is now gone. Who did we have? We had Mims, we had Becton, we had Quinnen Williams. That's all we really had left. Strip roster. Saleh takes over the team. We sign a free agent, Carl Lawson. He gets hurt. He's out for the year. We replace him with Shaq Neal or whatever the hell his name is. Right? Which is garbage. And that's what Saleh starts the season with for a team that just went 1-15 or 2-14. And he doubles the wins and wins 4 games with a rookie quarterback. With a rookie quarterback, doubles the wins. I know it's still bad, 4-13, and we looked horrible at times, but we had a rookie quarterback and we had a strip team that literally had 3 players. Oh, and I forgot, Becton got hurt too, right? So who did we have that year that was left out of that strip roster? Quinnen Williams and Denzel Mims. And then we got nothing out of Mims, right? Because LaFleur didn't like him. Because somehow being 6'4" and 4'3", how could I possibly make use of a wide receiver like that? So then we don't have him. So to me, it looks like, forget about the coach. In a sense, it looks like we're going to be the worst team in the NFL in history forever. Because who do we have? Well, that's where JD comes in, right? Because he secretly and sneakily moved up in the first round and drafted AVT. And then he added all these guys. Michael Carter. Michael Carter is the second. Jason Pinnock. We didn't hold on to him, but man, what a good pick. Jamie Sherwood. Right? And all of a sudden, we were filling in pieces that we didn't know about. Because guess what? Michael Carter, our RB2, RB3, whatever, depth in the running back room. And from the 4th round. AVT, by the way, superstar offensive lineman who could play anywhere. Jamie Sherwood, development player that now is filling a key role. We didn't have to go out and spend money on a linebacker, and we have a kid that might be really good and special. See what's going on here? UDA, undrafted free agent, Bryce Huff. All of a sudden, we have a freaking, I think we got him the year before, but now out of nowhere, we have a really good defensive edge. And guess what? JFM, we picked off the garbage pile, right? Played in the Super Bowl already. Nobody seemed to notice it. We somehow end up with JFM. All of a sudden, it's not looking so bad. We're starting to build some pieces. And by the way, for the first time in God knows how long, we have a coach that's not embarrassing us. And how many times we have to tell this story for people to get it through their heads? Do you remember what it was like when we had Gase? Or any coach, Todd Bowles? Our life before Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan aside, was just embarrassment. Now we had a guy that was professional. And we had a GM that was setting us up with draft picks. And getting rid of riffraff guys and getting draft picks. Who the hell gets a 4th-round pick for Herndon? Are you kidding me? The guy is a magician. And even though the 2nd overall pick in the draft in a quarterback, till now, I'm not saying it won't change one day, to this point is a bust. He survived that. He somehow survived that. Things that could set an organization back 4 years, he survived. I never heard of such a thing. Then we go into the next year, right? Only won 4 games. I understand that we collapsed. And I won't even I know no excuses. Okay, we're not allowed to use the excuse that the entire offensive line was decimated, that we were literally 6 tackles in, and that we were stuck with a quarterback and a quarterback play that was the worst in the NFL. All right, we get it. We missed on Zach Wilson. And guess what? More than 50% of the teams in the NFL in that position that we were in would have drafted Zach Wilson. It was confirmed by other GMs. Nobody argued the pick. He wasn't able to foresee what almost any other GM didn't see. Because with quarterbacks, it's just most miss. Most quarterbacks miss. Okay, it happened. So we have the worst quarterback play, but we still won 7 games. With all the injuries, with the worst quarterback play ever, we still win all the games. But that's not all Saleh brought us. What Robert Saleh brought us in that was we went from the 32nd defense to the 4th defense. So now the team has a definition, right? We had something. We had an identity. That's the word I'm looking for, identity. Suddenly, we were a team with a great defense. And we were a team that had some special weapons on offense. Now, by the way, before we had that 7-game season, JD came in again. This is the guy that some people want to fire. This is a guy that some people still criticize. JD had drafted us the future offensive and defensive rookie of the year. Jermaine Johnson, who told everybody to shut up and be patient. Everyone's last year, he doesn't have a lot of sacks. What are you saying now? Look at the draft from last year. Sauce Gardner, future Hall of Famer. Garrett Wilson, if he stays healthy, knock on wood, could be a future Hall of Famer. I think he's going to be a top 5 receiver in the NFL for years to come. Jermaine Johnson at 36. Trading up and getting his guy. Looking like, I think he might be the best defensive edge on our team. And I'll tell you why. Because we hope that Lawson's going to get better with the extra year with his Achilles. But Lawson was never a huge sack guy. I'm not putting him down. He's really good. There's a chance that Jermaine Johnson's going to be better than Carl Lawson. There's a very legitimate chance. He looks very good. And another thing about Jermaine Johnson that people didn't see from last year. He's amazing against the run. Like the position is more about just sacks. It's not a one-stat position. He seals the edge as well as JFM. And that's why we paid JFM so much money, except the difference is Jermaine Johnson was a rookie that we got with the 26th pick, sealing the edge as well as a guy who makes, $13 million a year. And he was doing it during his rookie year. And then he gets Breece Hall. Then he gets Jeremy Ruckert. Then he gets Michael Clemens and Max Mitchell. I don't know if I know of a better draft than that. Max Mitchell might be our 6th best defensive edge on the team, but he'd start on some other teams. He would have started on the Jets in 2020. He'd be our starting edge. Michael Clemens, who's our 6th best edge right now. And people are actually complaining about JD. He built a team that's so good that Aaron Rodgers, who San Francisco wanted, who a year ago Denver wanted, who New England wanted, who the Raiders wanted. And he said, I want to play for the New York Jets. That is Joe Douglas, people. That is Joe Douglas. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's Joe Douglas. He is the reason that Aaron Rodgers said, I want to play for the New York Jets. There's no argument on that. Aaron Rodgers is on this team because Joe Douglas is our general manager and built a freaking force. And if you're going to give anyone else credit, it's Robert Saleh, because Robert Saleh gave us a top 5 defense. And if you don't think that weighed into Aaron Rodgers' calculations, you're smoking crack. Because the only time Aaron Rodgers ever won a Super Bowl is when Green Bay had a top 5 defense. That's the only time it ever happened. So you don't think he knows that? You don't think he's aware that the Jets have a top 5 defense when he made the decision and said, I want to play for the New York Jets? Who gave us that defense? Who built that defense? Is it a coincidence that Jacksonville went to the AFC Championship game when Saleh was on that team, and then they went to crap when he left until they got Trevor Lawrence? Is that a coincidence? He ends up in San Francisco, and they have the number 1 defense, and they're like the dominant defense for 4 years. Do you think that's a coincidence? Then he comes to us, a strip roster with nobody, playing rookies, and by year 2 has a top 5 defense that Aaron Rodgers says, I want to play for them. That is Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh. I'm not saying they don't have a responsibility to win this year. I'm not saying that Robert Saleh doesn't have some parts of his coaching that he needs to improve and grow. I'm saying that if you're thinking going to the season, if the thing you're focused on is that Robert Saleh should be on the hot seat, we got problems. Because that's not what you should be thinking about. That is ridiculous to be thinking about that. The number 1 thing that Jet fans should be thinking about, in my opinion, is very obvious. 40 years of watching this team, it's the most obvious thing in the world. What we should be worried about. Our worries, our concerns should be 100% stay healthy. Because for 40 years, all I've ever experienced with this team is disappointment and heartbreak. And at the core of it was injuries. We finally had a franchise quarterback when I started watching this team 4 or 5 years after I was a fan when I was a teenager. His name was Ken O'Brien, and he tore his freaking rotator cuff, and that was the end of him. Was never the same. Then we get a guy, Vinny Testaverde. Never lived up to his potential until he found Bill Parcells in the New York Jets. Suddenly, he's a quarterback with a great team around him capable of winning a Super Bowl. What happens? He goes down without contact, and we lose him. The year that we're ready to win a Super Bowl, we lose him. Then we get a kid named Chad Pennington, who is fire. I mean, he's just got a gun. I thought he had a gun. People say he doesn't have a great arm. I don't know what they were talking about, because I was at the San Diego playoff game against the Jets, where even after his injury, he threw the ball 40 yards down the field and got us a big play. And I said, nothing wrong with his arm. But anyway, he tears a rotator cuff or whatever injury he had and was never the same. But before that happened, we blew out Indianapolis for like 42-0 with Chad Pennington. He was awesome. He was awesome. He was accurate. He was great. Then we get Brett Favre. Okay, I didn't think we had the greatest team that year. But suddenly we're like 8-1, 9-2 or something. And I'm like, holy shit. And what happens? He gets hurt and he's gone and he never plays for the Jets again. It's a never-ending cycle with us. And it kept happening. Carl Lawson and Becton. Like, it just keeps happening. So if you want to yell about something, if you want to be frightened about something, if you want to be negative about something, if you want to say what you're worried about, it shouldn't be about Robert Saleh. It shouldn't be about Joe Douglas. It shouldn't be about these things. We have the team. It should be about staying healthy, because that's all there is. You can't do more as a general manager than put together a roster that we have. It doesn't get better than this. We have literally the best defensive line I have ever seen as far as depth. I've seen better edges. I'm not going to say these guys are Lawrence Taylor or Reggie White. But the depth of the defensive line on the edge position is insane. I don't know as a football fan what team could ever say that Michael Clemens would be their sixth best edge. And believe me, by the way, if Michael Clemens was standing in front of me, I would not say he was the sixth best edge. I would say, Michael Clemens, you could play on the inside or the outside. You play special teams. You're a really good player, dude. I would not say, by the way, you're the sixth best edge. But I mean it as an extreme compliment because Michael Clemens, I love. I think he had a great rookie year. I think he had a lot of big plays. I think he wins a lot of reps. I think he pushes people around. He moves people. I think he's flexible and that we could use him and move him to the inside. Nobody has any doubt that we could do that and utilize him on the inside. I mean, and he gives us the intimidation factor. He gives us toughness. I mean, we as a fan base, this is why I'm so frustrated, have got to be able to take a 27-0 preseason win and be happy. We've got to be able to just look at the game and look at the positives. We went and we didn't take Schmitz. We took Tippmann. All kinds of ridiculousness went out that he was a bust because he was playing with the third team. Then he came out and he played a great game for the Hall of Fame game. And then he came out yesterday and played great again. I mean, I don't know if you're paying attention. Watch the game back. There were plays where Tippmann was literally pancaking people and getting to the second level on plays. You have to watch and pay attention. He is special. He is special. And we're such an amazing roster that we don't even know if he'll start. Because that's how deep our roster is. Because Connor McGovern, even though it was like no money, and everyone thought he could make a lot more money, he wanted to be a New York Jet. He said it. They were interviewing him. He said, I just wanted to come back to the Jets. Because I wanted to be here for at least another year, 2 years to see where this goes. And you want to talk about character? He's helping Tippmann. And he said, well, yeah, man, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what we do in this business. We don't think about people who are trying to take our jobs. In this business, we help the next guy. That's what we do in the NFL. That's who we're talking about. That's who we have. So I don't know where the negativity is coming from. I don't know why fans are choosing to be negative. I mean, even the young guys, the developmental guys, it's actually happening. Sherwood's ready, man. They're barely using him in preseason. You know why? Because we don't need to. We know he's the guy. You don't see Tony Adams because we know he's the guy. He's the guy. You're going to see he's fine. I mean, not that it's going to matter much at safety. Like, I don't know how often it's going to matter because the defense is so good. Like, think about yesterday's game. Did it ever matter if the safety? It feels like the safeties didn't even have to be there because our defensive line just controlled the entire game. And what's amazing about it is I don't care who they were playing against. You could see what's real. Every play, they're pushing a 300-pound plus man in front of them backwards. Every play. And one of them was Icky. Remember him, the guy from North Carolina that we all wanted to draft, top 10 pick in the NFL draft 2 years ago. Everybody loved him. Oh, my God. Well, guess what? Our Jermaine John, everybody, every freaking edge we put out there owned him. Owned him. This is not a fluke. When you play the Jets, every time as a quarterback that you drop back, every time, it doesn't matter who we have in our rotation, we're coming for you. And you're going to know we're coming for you. You're going to feel them coming for you. And what's beautiful is that, yes, in the beginning of the game, you're going to do all your short little passes and your screens. But now we have Aaron Rodgers and we're going to score points. And at some point, you're going to have to drop back and pass the ball. And that's when we're going to eat. It's going to be so good. Mark my words. It's better than you even think it's going to be. Because not only are we going to score points, but that's going to open up the defense like you've never imagined. Because now we're going to force the other team to pass the ball. Wait till the second halves of games. There are going to be games in the second half where they're in shotgun from like the middle of the third quarter to the end of the game, and you're just going to watch our defensive edges eat all day long. They're just going to eat. And they're not going to know what to do. They're going to be doing dump off passes, anything they can do. And we haven't even seen our linebackers with this defensive line. Like when we have Mosley and Williams in there, to see how they're going to do when we're forcing the other team to do these little short out passes. We're going to be rocking people. Anyway, that's my rant for Sunday night. We'll be back in the lounge tomorrow night. Our guest that we got is not available on the weekends. So Vinny and the Jets, Vincenzo, my guy, he's got a guest. We're bringing him on tomorrow night, 9 p.m. I think like 7 p.m. It'll be scheduled. Keep your eyes open. Look for it. I want to thank everybody that hung out and listened to me rant. I appreciate it. I don't know if I could have listened to myself rant, but hey man, as always, go Jets.
Let's go! We need JJ! We want JJ! Let's go!
JJ! We got Johnson! We got Johnson at 26! We got Johnson at 26! This is great!
It is Matt, it is Richie. We are hanging out with the Jets Lounge guys. Richie, my man, how's it going?
Matt, this is sick. We're at the Jets Lounge event in Farmingdale. The main event is what it's called. We got the entire Rucker family over there.
Jets!